Welcome to the whirlwind world of international trade, where a single decision in Shanghai can rewrite a grocery list in Buenos Aires. In the next few minutes, we'll blow the lid off 5 facts you've never heard, and trust me, they'll change how you see every product you touch. First, trade deficits aren't the economic apocalypse most headlines promise. Economists reveal that a country running a surplus of imports often enjoys lower consumer prices, higher purchasing power, and a surge in foreign investment. Think of it as the invisible engine that powers growth while you enjoy cheaper tech or fresh fruit. Second, a staggering 99% of global commerce rides on just 3 maritime corridors: the Strait of Malacca, the Panama Canal, and the Suez Canal. These narrow waterways move more than 3 million containers each day, dictating the rhythm of everything from smartphones to sneakers. A blockage in any of them can stall supply chains across continents. Third, tariffs are not isolated tax hikes. They generate shockwaves across entire economies. Imagine the United States slapping a 25% duty on steel. That single move ripples outward, inflating costs for construction, automobile manufacturing, home appliances, and ultimately every homeowner who buys a washer or a door. Fourth, while we laud the efficiency of cargo ships, their environmental footprint is largely hidden. International shipping releases more carbon dioxide annually than the entire aviation sector combined, yet regulatory frameworks lag behind. The silent emissions drift across oceans, adding a hidden climate cost to the price of every imported good. Fifth, the digital revolution has reshaped trade faster than any ship ever could. Today, services like cloud computing, streaming, and software licensing represent a quarter of global trade value. In just 10 years, digital exchanges have outpaced physical merchandise, reshaping labor markets and tax policies worldwide. Imagine a tiny island nation that exports nothing but bananas yet influences the stock market of a superpower. That's the leverage of comparative advantage. When a country focuses on what it does best, it creates ripples that cascade through global finance, employment, and technology transfer. Jobs in a smartphone factory in Vietnam can affect wage negotiations in Detroit, and a drought in Brazil can shift coffee prices on the New York Exchange. The web of trade is tighter than a spider's silk, and every thread pulls on another. Understanding these connections reveals why every purchase you make is a vote for a global policy you may never see and its impact today. But that's just the beginning. In Part 2, we go deeper, exploring the hidden subsidies, the geopolitics of supply chains, and the future of a world where borders blur faster than ever. Welcome back to our deep dive series on the economics of international trade and globalization. In Part 1, we covered the basics. Now we'll explore the sophisticated forces that drive the global market today. Our journey begins with a look back at the historical foundations that forged the pathways of exchange. The Silk Road, emerging around the 2nd century BCE, was more than a caravan trail. It was a conduit for silk, porcelain, spices, and ideas that connected East Asia to the Mediterranean world. Centuries later, the Columbian exchange of the 16th century reshaped entire continents by moving crops like maize and potatoes to Europe while introducing horses and diseases to the Americas. These early exchanges set a precedent for the interconnectedness we see now. In the late 1700s, Adam Smith's seminal work, The Wealth of Nations, introduced the concept of comparative advantage, arguing that nations prosper by focusing on producing goods where they have the lowest opportunity cost. David Ricardo refined this notion in 1817, showing that even if one country is less efficient in producing every good, trade can still be mutually beneficial if each specializes according to comparative advantage. Fast forward to the 1930s, the Hectorine model added nuance by emphasizing factor endowments, labor, capital, and land as determinants of trade patterns. These theories laid the intellectual groundwork for modern trade policy. Yet the real world is far more dynamic. In the latter half of the 20th century, endogenous growth theory emerged, emphasizing how technology diffusion across borders fuels productivity. Paul Krugman's work on increasing returns and network effects highlighted that modern trade is not just about physical goods but also about ideas, services, and digital platforms that multiply economic output. Today, the World Trade Organization governs multilateral trade rules, while regional agreements like the North American Free Trade Agreement, signed in 1994, and the European Union Single Market, launched in 1993, create intricate tariff structures that shape the flow of goods and services. Moreover, the rise of e-commerce and cloud-based services has turned trade into a data-driven ecosystem, where logistics, customs, and even intellectual property are managed in real time. Experts observe that supply chains have become so interwoven that a disruption in a single port can ripple through worldwide production lines, as evidenced by the 2021 Suez Canal blockage. Nobel laureate Paul Krugman stresses that policymakers must now consider economies of scale, network externalities, and the rapid diffusion of digital technologies when crafting trade regulations. Understanding these mechanisms is essential for anyone who wants to grasp why certain industries dominate, how tariffs influence consumer prices, and what the future holds for emerging markets. As we unpack these intricate relationships, remember that trade is both a driver of prosperity and a source of geopolitical tension, reshaping power dynamics on a global stage. In Part 3, we uncover what mainstream sources won't tell you. Imagine a world where the maps on your wall hide a deeper story, a story that has been silently steering the fortunes of every nation, while most of us never see the gears turning. For decades, economists have whispered about an invisible hand that moves beyond borders, but what if that hand is not a polite metaphor but a hidden network of contracts, subsidies, and strategic routes that only a few elite understand? In the first act of our story, we travel to the high-altitude passes of the Himalayas, where a secret treaty once dictated the price of tea, silk, and steel, locking entire economies into a pattern that still echoes today. That treaty, buried in dusty archives, revealed that a small corridor of mountain roads, barely wider than a caravan, funneled more wealth than the bustling ports of the world, because the goods moving through it were taxed at a fraction of the global rate. When you think of cheap electronics flooding our shelves, you picture factories in distant lands, but the real hidden cost lies in the subsidies that keep raw materials artificially low, a cost silently borne by taxpayers in the exporting countries. These subsidies create a price illusion that fuels consumer greed, while the true profit margins, kept hidden behind complex corporate structures, return to a handful of multinational conglomerates, reshaping global power without any nation even realizing the shift. But the most astonishing revelation comes when we look at the digital highways that now dominate trade, invisible cables that carry billions of dollars in data, determining where the next wave of manufacturing will rise. A single undersea fiber optic line, owned by a shadowy consortium, can reroute the flow of information, effectively granting its owners the power to dictate market trends, tax regimes, and even political alliances across continents. This revelation turns the traditional narrative on its head. Instead of nations battling over tariffs, the real battlefield is a silent war fought in data packets, where every click, every transaction fuels a hidden economy beyond the reach of any single government. So why does this matter to you? Because the price you pay for a cheap smartphone isn't just a few dollars, it's a slice of the world's hidden wealth, redistributed in ways that shape jobs, wages, and even the climate we all share. Understanding these invisible mechanisms gives you the power to demand transparency, to support policies that level the playing field, and to make purchasing choices that align with a fairer, more sustainable global economy. Stay tuned, because the next chapter will expose the final piece of this puzzle, a twist so profound that it will change the way you view every product you own forever. What you will learn next is the secret that connects these hidden networks to the very fabric of our daily lives, a truth that powerful interests have concealed for decades. Brace yourself for the revelation that will flip the script on global economics. Now that you know the truth, Part 4 will change how you see this forever. Welcome to the ultimate masterclass on the economics of international trade and globalization. This is Part 4 of our series, where we dive into the deepest aspects of the topic. International trade has a rich history, dating back to ancient civilizations. The concept of comparative advantage, introduced by David Ricardo, revolutionized our understanding of trade. Today, we see the impact of globalization on economies, societies, and environments. Experts debate the benefits and drawbacks, from lifted poverty to exacerbated inequality. As we move forward, it's crucial to consider the future of trade, including the rise of digital trade, the impact of climate change, and the need for sustainable practices. The economics of international trade and globalization is a complex, multifaceted field that affects us all. Understanding its mechanisms, examples, and debates is essential for navigating the global economy. If this series gave you value, subscribe. More deep dives coming every week.